Okay, I'm here to energize you guys. You've been sitting here all morning. Now you're filling your faces with sandwiches. Pay attention. I look out this crowd and I'm reminded of the story of the old couple. They'd known each other for years. Both their spouses were gone. They decided to get married. They went on a honeymoon. They'd never slept together, so they decided they'd take separate hotel rooms. Took these separate hotel rooms. After a few minutes, he knocked on the door and she let him in, and he came in, and it went pretty well. He had a little tumble, and she was pretty impressed. He went back to his room. 15 minutes later, another knock on the door. He came in again, and he said, she says, "You're back." He says, "Yeah." So they had another little tumble. It went pretty well again. And she was really impressed at this point. Went back to his room. 15 minutes later, another knock on the door. She opened the door. She says, wait a minute. I'm 79 years old. I've been with a few men in my life. I have never had a man come back 3 times in 45 minutes. He looked at her and says, "Was I here before?" When Stuart asked me to do this talk today to tell you my quick story about my journey with prostate cancer, he failed at first to tell me that there was going to be women in the room. So I had to change a number of things I was going to say about 5 o'clock this morning. So if you find it's a bit sanitized, guys, come and see me after. I'll tell you the stories I was going to tell. The other thing he said was, don't just talk about prostate cancer, talk about other things. So I went up to the foothills and met with a few people up there. And one of the things I learned was that they have a room up there full of brains for people who need brain transplants. It's pretty fascinating. And I went in and I looked at these brains and I said, "Tell me about them." He said, "Well, on this side, we have all men's brains." I said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "What do they cost?" He said, "Men's brains range anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000. I said, "That's amazing. What about on this side?" He said, "Those are all women's brains." I said, "How much are they?" He said, "Well, they range from $2,500 to $4,500. I said, "How come the big difference?" He said, "The men's brains have never been used." So what I'm here for is to just give you a little story about my adventure with this thing. I'm going to talk for maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes at the most. I hosted Rick Hillier recently at a speech, and he started off by saying that he can be a bit long-winded. And he said I was giving a speech one day, and a gentleman got up toward the end of my speech and started to leave. He made quite a lot of noise as he was leaving. So I said, "Stop my speech," he said, and I said, "Sir, you're making quite a disruption. Where are you going?" The fellow said, "I'm going to get a haircut." And Hillier said, I responded, "Sir, couldn't you have arranged for a haircut before my speech?" And he said, the man looked at me and said, "Before your speech, I didn't need a haircut." So there were 3 steps, I guess you would have to say, to my little journey with prostate cancer. And I thought I would start off, for those of you that have had it, you can doze off if you want. These steps will be familiar to you. For those of you that haven't, you'll know you're going to learn something. Step 1, of course, is that you have been out for a medical and you've had your visit with your doctor. He's told you you're too fat. My doctor said to me, "You're going to have to diet." I said, "Why, what color is it now, Doc?" And he said, and I get a phone call. And the phone call was, "George, we've set up an appointment with you with a doctor at the urology clinic over at the Rocky View Hospital." And your instinctive reaction is, why? That's one of those duh questions, or as my friend Ken King calls them, a BGO, a blinding glimpse of the obvious. He said, "Your PSA came in, it's too high, and you're going to have to go and do some work on that, and we're going to have you tested." So up I went to the clinic one afternoon for a nice visit with 2 doctors. They were terrific, and they explained the whole situation to me, gave me some treatment alternatives, and told me to go out and have a good time for the next 2 or 3 weeks. You can take that interpretation for whatever you think it might mean. It was probably the first moment I realized, and I have to say this, and I'm going to come back to it in a moment, about just how incredible the people that work in our medical system are. Here are these 2 doctors, one of whom I call a bit of a friend now. He's seen parts of me that most of you never will. And they were so patient and they were so calm, and they were able to talk to me about what was going to happen and what the results would be, and that was so critically important at that time. This is about 6 years ago, for those of you that are curious. the amazing thing I found right after that was that cancer treatment, and particularly prostate cancer treatment, has come so far that you don't get a lot of sympathy anymore. When I started to mention to people that I was, that I potentially had prostate cancer, the reaction was, "Oh wow, good thing you caught it early," or "Gee, I've got a bad knee from jogging," or "Gee, George, prostate cancer. Wow, that's something. I'm thinking about buying a new car this weekend. You want to go with me?" So it really feels like someone who you're trying to say, "I've got cancer here," and you don't get that reaction. You don't get that feedback. It's interesting, but it's actually a testimonial, I think, to how far the treatments have come, and as we saw earlier here today, the survival rates. I was thinking as I was sitting with Eric a few minutes ago that you listen to a supplement doctor and you listen to a chicken doctor, and now you've actually got the chicken. So then you get into the actual testing, and they phone you up and they say you have to drink a semi-trailer tank full of water and then come up to the clinic and we're going to do an ultrasound on you. Well, of course, I got busy that day, forgot to drink the water, so I have 2 big bottles of water in a taxi. I'm trying to pour this water down, and I get up to the clinic and walk in, and this lovely young lady says, first thing she says is, "Take all your clothes off, leave your briefs on, lay on this table." And then the second thing, she looked at me and said, "You didn't drink the water, did you?" I said, "Well, I did." She said, "No, but you didn't drink it when you were supposed to." I thought, I'm in trouble already. Here we go. Then she put this gel all over me, turned the lights down, turned her computer screen on, and I said to her, "If you bring out wine, I'm here for the afternoon." Of course, there's a second part of that test, which we all know, and that's when they take something about the size of a Lady Clairol curling iron, and they managed to find a place that the sun has never seen. And I decided I was going to have some fun with it, so I might as well at that point, right? So I started to tell a couple of stories to the nurse, and she was laughing, and I was laughing, and the doctor was laughing, and the nurse said, "No one's ever told me jokes before while this procedure was being done, but could you come up with some new material? Because those I've heard before." So that was it. Step 2, you're going to the hospital. I won't say too much about this experience except to say that once again that we have people that do amazing work at our hospitals. From doctors to nurses to floor staff to anyone that you encounter, everything was explained to me every single step of the way, and that was very important. I'm not impressed with being in a hospital bed. I can tell you that's not in my nature, and I found that the experience from a staff perspective was outstanding. And I say that because I think we often criticize our medical system, and I know that it's got lots of faults, and I'm sure that after the budget on Thursday you want to scream sometimes, but the reality is the people that work in our medical system are phenomenal. I want to just take a couple of moments. First of all, I had a call from a friend of mine who lives in South Carolina, and he said to me, "Here, you're getting a prostate operation." I said, "Yes." He said, how's your hospital?" I said, "Oh, it's excellent, beautiful." I was up at the Rocky View, and he said, "How's your room?" I said, "My room, I got a view of the lake, and I got a flat screen TV, and I got a nice bed that goes up and down and around and what have you." And he said, "And you don't pay for anything of that? You don't pay anything for that?" And he just couldn't understand. He couldn't believe what our system does. And I said, "No." Well, I said, "I'm sure we've paid for it somewhere along the line, but not today." The other serious moment I had was after you've been prepped and all the other things that they do, they wheel you into the hallway, I guess, or the area just outside the operating room, and leave you there for half an hour, put some drugs into you to relax you, I think, or maybe in my case to tell me to quit me telling stories. And I laid there for about half an hour, and I just reflected. And you reflect on your family, and you reflect on your children, and you reflect on your grandchildren and all that's happened in your life. You think about whether or not you've made a difference in the world, and you realize that it's all just we're here for a good time, not a long time. And you need to take that time today, all of you, while you're in this room, to reflect on all the wonderful things that happened to us. We live in probably one of the most wonderful countries in the world, in the most special place that you could live, with people that will care for us the way we are cared for. And I think sometimes, to be candid, we spend too much time bitching and not enough time reflecting on just how incredible where we live is and just how lucky we have it. Thank you. I'd like to believe that if I hadn't come out of that operation, people would have missed me, and I think they would have. Maybe not for more than 1 or 2 days, but they would have missed me, that's for sure. So anyway, suffice to say, with so much care and so much attention, it all is designed to put you at ease. So I went through the operation. I remember going in the room, and there were 2 or 3 nurses there, all one, and one said to me, "Oh, you're George Brookman." I said, "Yes." She says, "You own West Canadian." I said, "Yes, I do." She says, "Oh, my brother was in the print business. He went bankrupt." I said, "Now that isn't something you tell somebody just as they're about to go into the operation." And then after that, this fella came in, and he was about 7 feet tall, and he had a big burly guy, and he was bald, and he was the one that started fixing me up for the needles and everything. And I said, why can't the girls do that? Why are you the one that's doing all that? He said, "We don't trust you with them." So then after you come out, of course, those of you that have had it, you come out, you wake up in a nice room, and you've got these awful white stockings on you that are supposed to keep you from clotting, I guess, and they're not very comfortable, but you're feeling pretty good. You're awake, and you got lots of flowers in the room, and everything is good, and I felt very chipper, to be honest with you. I was probably on a high, and there was a lovely nurse there, and she said to me, "This is a morphine drip." And she said, this little button here, this morphine will last about 55 minutes, and if you need some more, just push that button. I said, I feel fantastic. I said, I just feel great. I want to minimize the amount of drugs that I'm going to be needing for this. But 53 minutes and 45 seconds later, I was pounding on that button, let me tell you, and saying, "Get in here with that morphine." So it's a serious surgery, and you can't make light of it. You have had major surgery, and in my case, as you say, it was in places that not many people ever get a chance to see. Sorry, I got to pick this up for a moment because I got emotional there for a sec. Let the doctors and nurses do what they will. Don't be too tough. Don't try and be too tough. Don't pretend you're something you're not. I mentioned that I had a beautiful room and a great bed. On the 3rd day, I was supposed to be discharged, and Dr. Kozak came in, and he said, "George, I think we're going to keep you in one more day." And I said, "Really? Okay, well, that's fine, and whatever you say, Doc." And he left and said, "I'll see you again tomorrow." And in came this couple of these nurses, and I was moved from this gorgeous room and this beautiful bed with the big TV. I was moved into a little room that I think was probably a closet, and it had a bed that was just like this, and no TV. And so one of the nurses, I came in to see me, I said, "What happened?" She said, "We find you fellas get better a lot faster if we don't leave you in that comfortable room too long." So I left. And the next day, when I was discharged, I went home. And my wife had set me up so that I could be in a room that we kind of keep for when one of us is ill, I guess. And of course, you are going out of there with that catheter tied to your leg. And you have to go to bed, and you have to figure out how to get the bag lower than your butt, right? Everybody nodding on this one? And so you get a chair, and you put the chair next to the bed, and you hang the bag on the bottom of the chair, and you get bulldog clips and clothespins, and you have them all set up, and everything's good, and you're in bed, and you got this thing coming out and over there. And then my wife says to me, looks good, but what happens if you have to get up to pee? I said, "It's not a problem." After 3 weeks, the catheter came out. Everyone told me that this was going to hurt, but the truth is that the doctor and I were talking about cars and politics, and then he said, "Pull up your pants, you're done." And that was the simplest. So I was so apprehensive about that, and in fact, it was no problem at all. But that is quite a funny experience. of having one of those things for a while. And one night I was at a fundraiser at the convention center with a bunch of people, and had been drinking wine, which I wasn't supposed to do, but that's never stopped me. And I decided I had to go to the washroom. And, you know, you go to the washroom, those of you that haven't had one, you put your leg up, undo the little tap, and everything gets taken care of, and you go back to your table. And so I'm sitting at the table and suddenly realized that I'd forgotten to close the little tap. So the bottom half of my tux was black, it was wet, my sock was wet, and I thought I should leave. And I thought, it's just wine anyway, and I just had another glass and stayed there. 6 years later, how am I? Well, I've got lots and lots of energy. I'm 68, by the way, for those of you that wondered. I know you wouldn't think that, would you, ladies? I feel great. I just came back from a trip to Mexico with my grandchildren, and my life is pretty fantastic. I say that because I think sometimes men resist having this operation because of all the obvious reasons and all the things that change in your life when you do have it, and yet I wouldn't give up the last 6 years of my life for anything, and I think that's very important to remember. Obviously, there's things that have changed, but if I had to do it all over again, I would still do it. One day after I'd been discharged and I was still at home, Greg Kozak phoned me and he said, "George, I have really good news for you." And I said, "What is it?" He said, I just got your biopsy report and you definitely had cancer. And I said, "Why is that good news?" He said, "God, you wouldn't want to go through all that and not have it, would you?" So, it was an interesting experience. For those of you that may be facing it, just go for it. But I will give you, I wrote quite a long poem that I sent to Greg Kozak after it was all over. I'm not going to read you the whole poem, but I am going to read you 2 verses of it. And here they go. There are some minor issues, like peeing on the floor. Your little buddy points straight out, like he never did before. The first time that this happens, you can't believe your eyes. Your pants are soaked, and your little friend appears only half his size. So all you medic scientists who can get that prostate out with scars as small as pennies, and with confidence, no doubt, it's time to turn your focus to the man who's left behind and help him keep his fantasies in more than just his mind. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Good health, good luck. Enjoy.